Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm reading over some information here that for class, and I have lots of thoughts running through my head. Most of it pertaining to the rectification of the society from a macro level. How are we going to rectify the society? Let me ask this question. If you have a plumbing issue in your home, do you call a lawyer? If you have, you want to build a deck onto your house, do you call the plumber? If you need legal advice, do you call the sanitation worker? More than likely, I think common sense is going to dictate that you contact a person who specializes or has expertise in certain fields. Whatever you need to have done, you will call the person who specializes in that. And I say that to say that many times I believe that we believe or think that our ulama can rectify all affairs on all levels at all times. Back in 1977 in Mecca, Saudi Arabia, the it was a group called the Organization of Muslim Educators. And they held a conference in 1977 in Mecca, Saudi Arabia, and it consisted of like 120 something Saudis and 180 something educators from all over the world. And the purpose of the conference was to examine education and the Western influence that has dominated education. The dominance of Western thought and the pedagogical approaches of the West have crept into the East, and it tends to, not even tends to, it does affect the thinking of the Muslim. It affects the thinking of the non-European, the person who is not from European descent. This stuff really came to the forefront in my mind when I left Western academia. For those of you who know me, you know I studied sociology up to the master's degree level, and I am now doing a higher degree in an Islamic university. And, you know, the entire time that I studied sociology in the university in America, everything was from a Eurocentric perspective. Everyone who they referenced and cited as experts, as the go-to, as the founding fathers of sociology, of all of the social sciences, were white European men. Now, alhamdulillah, having, traveled a little bit, been blessed to be able to travel and go to some different countries and spend time and meet people and have conversations. You know, as I'm sitting in these classes, something isn't adding up right here. You're telling me that nobody of color, with the exception of W.E.B. Du Bois, contributed to the social sciences or critiqued or analyzed from a critical thought process, from an analytical thought process, society and how society works and what makes the society go, and, you know, just all aspects of society. It all began with Europeans. That wasn't sitting right with me. I knew that was not correct. Something is afoot here. So close that chapter. Well, let me go back. I had lots of run-ins with professors, several run-ins because everything that was given to me is filtered or was filtered through an Islamic lens. In Eurocentric sociological approach, religion plays no part because it's not from the positivist perspective, meaning it can't be tested. It can't be, the five senses can't tune in on it, so to speak. So if it can't be tested, if it can't be, what's the word I'm looking for? Tested. If it can't be tested, then they give no credit to anything dealing with the spiritual realm or dealing with God. Most sociology today is atheist or agnostic at best. Many of the leaders in sociology. And like I said, that something didn't seem right to me. Thank God, when I went back to college, I had a little bit of world experience. So I wasn't just this open vessel allowing these people to pour ideas, concepts, and theories into my head, and I just wholeheartedly accept them like most of the other younger students. There were many times that I was sitting in class with my head cocked sideways, like, what are you talking about? Like, nah, I'm not buying that. That led me to have confrontations with papers that I wrote, based on different topics. So fast forward. I'm now taking courses in a university from the East, and who is being cited and what is being referenced is not Europeans. They go back further than Europeans. I really wish that I'd had this information prior to going to school here in the West. I probably wouldn't have graduated, though, to be honest with you, because I would have been letting the professors have it. I really feel like I was lied to and cheated, but I really can't expect anything from a Eurocentrically based education more than a Eurocentrically based education. The same way being in an Islamic university, I expect to learn from an Islamic perspective. Anyway, back to this meeting that they had in 1977. The Muslim World Leaders or World League of Educators, and they were looking at education and how to extract the Western mentality, the Western approach, the Western critique, the Western ideas out of information and infuse in it Islamic ideas, Islamic worldview, Islamic ethics. Now, you would say, well, why is that important? Because if you allow another group to dominate your thought process, how you critique what's correct, what's morally correct, what's ethically correct, then you are easily dominated. We have to remember that there was a history or a period of time in history that the Muslims dominated the world in all aspects of the society. We were the leaders of the world. We're talking mathematics. We're talking science. We're talking from a moral perspective, from an ethical perspective, everything intellectual, not just or strictly religious, but it was from the religion that we extracted, our intellect, and we applied it to the society. We have since lost that aspect of ourselves, that intellectual, academic part of ourselves. If I want to talk about economics, modern day economics, be it macro or micro. And I really want to know how economics today work. It probably wouldn't do me too much good to go to someone who specializes in hadith. That doesn't mean that that person can't give me beneficial knowledge. But if I want to study economics today, then I need to go to someone who specializes in economics. If I want to know about plumbing, I'm going to go to a plumber. I'm not going to go to a person who specializes in Quran. What I think needs to be done is there needs to be a meeting of the minds between those who have Islamic scholarship, who specialize in the various ulum of al-Islam, and those Islamic academics who specialize in the various sciences or the various industries in the society today. As I mentioned before, the Muslims at one point, we dominated the world in all aspects. We were the top, number one. We were the model that everyone else looked to for how to model their society. We are in very trying times right now, and we have issues that did not really exist at the level that they do now. We talk about the internet. We look at globalization and the internet and being able to travel anywhere in the world, go anywhere, spread anything that we want to spread, intake anything that we come in contact with is one of the, it could be positive or it definitely could be negative aspect of globalization. We have a lot of different issues now that the Muslims back in the day didn't have to deal with. And this is why I think we need to close the gap between our ulama and our students of knowledge and the Islamic academics. Who do I mean by the Islamic academics? I think that includes anyone that is at the graduate level of whatever field they study in, whether it's the human sciences, natural sciences, engineering, whatever the case may be. Graduate school is different than undergraduate as far as information, as far as learning critical thought, analytical thought, learning the ins and outs of that industry or that science. I remember asking one of my professors a while back, I said, what is the difference between undergrad and grad? And he said, at the undergrad level, you are still a consumer of information. But at the graduate level, you learn to become a producer of information. So it's a different level, higher level, more academically strenuous and rigorous program and type of education. So that's what I mean by Islamic academics. An Islamic academic is going to filter whatever information from his field of study and filter it through an Islamic lens. And this is where the ulama come in, because that Islamic academic must have the Islamic side or access to the Islamic side in order to integrate Islamic ethics, Islamic worldview, Islamic understanding into whatever his field of study is or his area of industry. There's many things that, that exist now that didn't really exist back in the day. And, we need to know how to traverse these different areas. We talk about big data. We talk about blockchain. We talk about artificial intelligence, AI, cybersecurity, postmodernism, environmental issues, social media, jobs of the future, post-normal societies. There's so many different things that we're now being bombarded with and we're being hit with How do we tackle these things Islamically? We don't want to tackle it from a Western perspective. We don't want to take the West's idea of these things because our asl, our base is different than theirs. Our moral compass is different than theirs. You know, Lord forbid we add capitalism to the conversation, and that just, you know, that throws gas on the fire. So I think it's important that we close the gap and put these two groups together in order to rectify the issues of the society, the Muslim society primarily, the Muslim society. We have to learn to govern ourselves. We have to define our own agency versus having our agency defined for us, who we are, how we think, what's important, what's our position. That should all be governed and defined by Islam. And how we view these various issues that are in the society, our position has to be within the perimeters of al-Islam, the Sharia. It has to be within that legislation. And this is, again, where the people who have knowledge of the various sciences of Islam and the people who have Islamic, those who I consider to be Islamic academics, this is where I think they need to intersect and meet. They need to put their heads together in order to create for the Muslim a curriculum almost. And it should be the norm that we, not initially, but I mean, I guess you could say initially, how we digest information. It should automatically be from an Islamic perspective. It should be the norm for us. Again, when I went through undergrad and grad in the U.S., everything was filtered through an Islamic lens. Everything raised the European up, made the European appear as if he was the pinnacle of society, that he was the foremost in all of the sciences, that he was the foremost in mathematics, that Europeans were the inventors of everything. And that affects the person's self-esteem. That affects a Muslim's, especially a young Muslim's, self-identity when they don't see themselves being expressed as being contributors to the society. I mean, this also has an African-American aspect of it as well. You know, when we talk about critiquing the society, when we talk about contributions to the world, I guarantee you we can go, if we do research, and find a whole lot of Africans from back in the day to today that contributed and that continue to contribute to society as a whole. So this is just something that I'm kicking around right now. Tell me what you guys think. Do you agree that there has to be or should be a meeting or a working together between those people who have expertise in the Islamic sciences and those people who have expertise in, I want to say secular aspects, but they're Muslims. So they want to make sure that how they teach it and how they implement it is within the guidelines of the Sharia.